They're really useful for accurately assessing colours. Hi, it's Anna Mason. Have you ever struggled when painting with yellow? In this mini class, I'm going to show you how I made my colour mixing choices when working on this yellow freesia flower in watercolour. We'll explore how I gave it form and depth of tone without losing its lovely glow. Let's take a look. I'm not sure how much experience you have painting with yellow, but it has a reputation for being a challenge. Mainly, that's because the paint as you buy it is very light. Even in its thickest, least watery state, it's the lightest colour in the palette by far, except for white, of course. So when we need to darken it, as we'll need to do for the shadow parts of this flower, we need to mix other paint colours into it. And that's where things can get tricky because it can be hard to judge just what to add and how much. The important thing to bear in mind when you work with yellow is that even the darkest shadow areas are still actually quite light. If you look at the reference photo in black and white, this becomes a lot clearer. The contrast levels are not that big. They appear much bigger when in colour, and that's to do with just how vibrant, saturated and glowing that bright yellow is. Sometimes this quality of colour is known as chroma. So basically, there are some inherent issues our eyes have with assessing hue and tone in yellow subjects, and I'm going to show you how to overcome that. I begin by placing the lightest versions of each of the colour areas within the painting, applying a watery, vibrant yellow, the transparent Winsor lemon paint is my favourite, all over the petals except for the very lightest highlights, which I leave as paper colour. Then, so that I can more easily judge how dark to take the midtones, it's time to paint the darkest tones within the yellow petals. When looking for the darkest tones within the petals, the bits that stand out as the darkest areas are those with a more red-orange hue to them that you can see here. But when we look at the image in black and white, it's easier to see that those areas are basically the same tonally as some of the areas around them. We can see that these broader areas are pretty much as dark, so we need to paint these next too. Working out how to mix this colour is a challenge. When we're looking at the colour photo, these dark shadow areas seem much less bright than the yellow around them, so you would think that adding a neutral colour, some grey or perhaps some brown would work. So you might want to reach for burnt sienna or even the tiniest bit of Payne's grey to mix in with the Winsor lemon to create the right colour. But that would be a mistake. Let me show you why. We make that mistake because of the way in which we perceive hues and tones relative to the hues and tones we see around them. It's something I refer to a lot, and it's relevant in every painting, but it's crucial to grasp when working with yellow. Let's look at those dark areas again. When they're up against the super bright, mega vibrant lighter yellows, they look relatively dull and muted. But what if we take a look at them against a neutral colour, grey? They look so much brighter, and it's obvious that they're actually quite a bright orange colour. Let's toggle between the black and white and the colour. And honestly, this is the exact same colour that we're looking at. It's just the surrounding colours that are changing. Viewing against grey like this works well because a mid-grey is a really neutral colour in terms of tone as well as hue. You can actually buy artist colour viewfinders like this to place over your reference photo or hold up to your subject. They're really useful for accurately assessing colours, and you can always make your own version by simply cutting a small hole in a grey piece of paper or card. Okay, so now that we're clear that these darkest areas of the petals are definitely quite a bright orange, let's avoid our neutral colours. They all contain some blue to them, so that's going to give us colours that are too green. Instead, what we're going to do, we'll have obviously our base colour of the Winsor lemon, and you can see I've changed my water and I've cleaned up my palette because I don't want any of the green getting in. And then we're going to add in some permanent carmine to darken it, make it orange, but it's a really dark colour, so we can do quite a lot. We can take it quite dark using the permanent carmine, and I'm just going to brighten it though, because for those very darkest areas, although we know now that they're not actually that dark, they need to be nice and bright. So I'm just adding in a bit of the opera rose. So if I just added in transparent orange to this, I wouldn't have been able to get dark enough. So That's why I'm using this combination, but the Opera Rose just keeps that lovely vibrancy. So I'm going to try this out in an area that I know is really dark. So for example, I think this has got to be the darkest bit down here. I apply this to the darkest areas, then water down a touch to work on the slightly lighter areas. Then I leave out the Opera Rose and add more Winsor Lemon to the mix to work on the darker mid-tones. Again, adding more Winsor Lemon to work on the mid-tones, before using neat Winsor Lemon as another layer to the lighter mid-tones, connecting up the petals so that they look 3D. With the stem and buds darkened, I make further adjustments to the petals with additional layers, including a tiny bit of quinacridone violet into the mix where the hues needed to be more muted, but without making them go green. With further rounds of tonal adjustments, and then using a teeny brush to add more details, the freesia is finished. I hope this has helped you gain some confidence in painting yellow. A full video class of this yellow freesia is available now in my online school. If you've enjoyed this mini class, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, then head on over to animasonart.com where you can take full-length video classes for free and find a whole heap of resources to help you capture the beauty of nature on your paper. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.